kind of like doing lecture, just seeing how far we can get, kind of showing a different couple things. So yeah, I guess let's just get started then. So for this, what I'm going to have us do is just, you can either clone your starter project down or mine. If you look at Neo, just kind of show you what I have on Neo. Here's kind of like what we're going to be doing. So Cloudanary is the big one. We're going to, for this demo, use FilePond React. FilePond React is just a nice, gives us a nice UI to like select files from our computer. So I guess I need to share my screen. There's other libraries, so I don't want to feel like you have to use FilePond. You could just use HTML to do this, but we'll kind of look at one of these options called FilePond React. This may or may not be the library you want to use for your project. So there's another one called like Drop Zone. All it really does is it essentially just gives you a play, like it gives you the like drag and drop functionality. It also pops up just a nice UI when you like for your file system to upload a file. But cloudanary.com, this is where we're actually going to store our photos. So for your portfolio project, you can either create an account for your group or just use one of your team members' account. And then I have this Trello card for like, it's just a condensed version that's going to show you how to do like a basic upload. But as we get into these third-party libraries and as you get into like your projects, we're getting more into the territory where like homework's not like, hey, here's how we did it in class, now you go do it. It's like, here's an example of how to upload images. Now you need to kind of figure out how to make that work with your use case. So we'll look at a couple different ways to upload images, and most importantly, getting Cloudanary set up. So let's go ahead and do that first. Just getting Cloudanary set up. So everyone go to cloudanary.com and go ahead. So this is going to be free. I'm sure they have, once you get to like a certain amount of storage, they'll start to charge you. But for what we're doing, this will be free. Let's go in. What product we want? Does it make you select the product?
Yeah, I think it's mandatory.
Program media. I would just say do this one, digital asset management. Man, they have totally just changed. They have updated their UI. They've updated their website pretty dramatically this last couple months. All right. I need to edit something on these notes. So yeah, all we really need right now is once you get to this login page, just make sure you have like this cloud name, API key, API secret, and the environment variable. You can just leave this tab open and then we can go start setting up our Rails project. So for the Rails project, you can either, I should show you this. I was watching this show about this guy who climbed like 14 of the highest peaks in like Nepal and Pakistan in like 7 months. So he did like Everest and K2 and all these other crazy mountains. Kind of cool show. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, let's go ahead and open up iTerm. CD into your folder. What is this, week 8?
Sorry, what product did we select for this? I said select a product.
I did digital asset and management, or like collaboration and content, I think it was.
Or are they just kind of titles, or do you think they're different?
Oh, they're probably different. I'm not sure how. That seems like a new field, but I'm sure it won't. For what we're doing, it's probably not going to be a huge deal. Hopefully not. Yeah, it seems like, I don't know if they've just changed their UI or if they've changed some other stuff, but this is like completely updated. There has been so many changes this cohort. Rails just upgraded to version 7. React Router updated to 6. We had a Yarn update. The Yarn update broke a lot of things, I think, a lot of different places. It's like a lot of breaking changes. All right. Let's see here. Go ahead, CD into that project. Let's just kind of do some of the things we need to do to get this set up from our starter project. So one thing I could do is CD into client and run yarn just to get all the yarn stuff installed. In my Rails app, I could do a bundle. I also want to rename my database. So I could go to my, and this is all in the README here. So some things we need to do: rename the database in our database YAML. Let's go find this. Upload. Oh, I called that fall 21. It's a little confusing, but I'm going to call this image upload W21, so that name's unique. Cool. Just need something, a database that I don't have. So I rename that. I go back to my README just to kind of look at some other things. So I need to bundle, create, migrate, and seed. I'm actually just going to look at my seed file. I have some cats. I don't really want any, I don't need any cats. Maybe I will do a user. Don't have to, but now I know I have a user with test@test.com email. So I can do a Rails DB create, DB migrate. All right. Cool. So we've done that. We've run yarn. We need to now remove the remote. So get remote RM or get origin. Get remote RM origin. Is that the right one? Yep. Get remote -v. Cool. Then yeah, I can add a new Git repo. Just gonna go to GitHub. Okay, repository. Let's call this image. And then add that remote. All right, Rails S P. So I can just start this up, just make sure this is working. Cool. There we go. So I'm able to log in with my user. Sweet. So I'm just going to do a git add dot git commit -m. Okay, so there's our initial setup. Cool. So now we can go in and start talking about our image upload. So there's two parts to this. There's the front end part. And like I said, we're going to use file pond. There's other libraries. You know, this, like I said, this one is just going to give us a nice little UI to like upload some images. So it's really just the UX part of it. It really has nothing to do with the back end. But we'll use this. So, and you might see this with some React packages and projects. So this is file pond React. There's also just file pond. So there's this file pond library that is just JavaScript. And then, there's kind of like wrappers, or they call them adapters, that are written in the different like front end languages like jQuery or React or Vue. So file pond just like this vanilla JavaScript project that gives us this nice UI. And then, someone wrote like this React file pond that kind of wraps that project and uses it behind the scenes, but then we can use it as like a React component. And the reason I'm bringing this up is sometimes when especially if you're trying to do like custom stuff with like file pond, you might need to look at both libraries. You might need to look at this React one, but then this one, the JavaScript one, you can still use this. So you can, maybe look at their documentation. Because this documentation on file pond is way better than the React stuff. So cool. So with this, read the docs for more information. So yeah, they do have like this little, this is essentially the docs for React. There's not that much, but let's just go ahead and run this. So notice something, if we were to use like this example right here, which we're kind of going to do something similar, because here it's saying like npm install React file pond and file pond. So those are the two libraries we looked at. But if we look down here, there's file pond plugin image exif orientation from file pond plugin image exif orientation. So one thing when we're doing imports, and if we want to utilize these libraries, this is the name of the library we would add. So if I wanted to use this, I would need to do, and it's kind of telling me right here, these need to be installed separately. I would just do a yarn add file pond plugin image exif orientation, a yarn add file pond plugin preview. I don't need to do a yarn add file pond plugin image preview distribution file pond CSS, because that's going to be included in this yarn add right here. That's just a separate file in there. So I'm going to just slack this out. When adding the libraries for this is what we're going to do. I just kind of wanted to show why, they have yarn PM React file pond, and then in the thing I just slacked out, there's those two extra things. And that's why I'm importing these two extra things, is because if I want to do this. All right, so in your client folder, let's go ahead and add these packages. And something I could do now, even though just to see if it's working, I could take this component, and I'll slack this out just in case if you're not on this page. just kind of wanting to see if, I got this installed correctly. I could go to my clients, my source, my components, do a new file. Let's call this like file pond demo.js. Throw that inside of here. File pond demo. And export default. File pond demo. And just render that component in, like my home page. I'm also, man, I'm gonna get rid of all this cat stuff. Let's see here, I actually don't think I have like an images folder. I'll show this images. So I'm just going to download some images. So, and also just since we're talking about images, let's kind of like look at a website and just see how behind the scenes, like images are kind of working. If you go to like a website, let me go to Wikipedia. Let's try like this one. If I like on any image on any website, if you right click on it, you can do something like this: copy image address. And then if I do a Command V, it's just a URL. So every image really behind the scenes, like, because when you do a image tag or image HTML element, you give it a source, right? You give it that URL. You could also give it a location in like your file system, like if you're coding it, but that's once it actually gets put up to the internet, that's like going to translate to a URL as well. So so every image is going to have like a URL. And what we're going to do with see, there's our source right there. What we're going to do with Cloudanary is we're going to send up like the data, like the file data, and then Cloudanary is going to store that image, and what it's going to give back to us is a URL where that image lives in their server. So when we create an image with Cloudanary, we're going to get back that URL, and that's what we're going to save to our database, is the URL. And then once we are creating our website, then in an image tag, we just give it the source. We give it that URL. So I just want to start saving some images. So go through online and go, I don't know, go pick out a couple images. The other thing you can do is, yeah, say, I'm sure you've all done this. you can go save an image to your computer with the right click and then save image as. So I'm just, since I don't think I have any images on this computer, so I'm going to just download a couple. Mount Olympus. So yeah, you can go to like any image, open image in a new tab. That's just going to give you that URL. That's not a good one. It's a little small. I actually have to go to the website to get the URL. There we go. Save image as. Okay. It's got a couple images. So with File Pond, go back to my React app. So now I can browse my computer. And so when I click on that button, I can go select an image. And now it throws it there. It's also giving me like this. It's like actually trying to upload it to a server. So I can do that. I can also like, it gives me this drag and drop functionality. So if I have like an image, I can like come in here and drag and drop it. So that's what File Pond's doing. It's just giving us this nice little UI to like add and remove pictures to our UI. It's giving us a nice little preview too. So it's giving me like this error, like, hey, we had an error during upload. I can tap to retry. So cool. So we have that working. We're definitely like, for our use case, we're probably going to need to switch some of this stuff. So we'll go investigate that in a bit. But let's go ahead and do this. So the next step we can do is just that we have that kind of set up. Let's go in and get Cloudanary set up. So for this, we're going to go to our gem file. And we're going to do a gem Cloudanary. Sweet. So now that I've done that, I need to run bundle to actually install that. And oh, actually, sorry, there's one more I wanted to install. Let's do in my development and test, I'm going to add a gem dot spelled out DOT-ENV Rails. We'll look at what we're going to do with this in 1 second. Bundle, install that one, get my .env Rails in there. Cool. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to set up our passwords in this using this gem. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a file called I'm going to start with a dot env, and I'm going to call this env example. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up some global environment variables. So we're going to have this cloud name variable. We're going to have a API key variable. And we're going to have a API secret. Okay, so I have this .env example file. I'm now also going to create the actual file that I want to store these variables in, and I'm going to call this .env. So I'm going to just take what I have inside of here and paste it in my .env. All right. So here I'm actually going to paste the actual values from Cloudanary. I'm going to take my cloud name. I'm going to copy that. Put that right there. I'm going to take my API key, paste that inside of there. And just the kind of, not that I'm really concerned about it, but since I'm throwing this on YouTube, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to do the same thing with my API secret. Throw it in there and save. I can share my screen again. Okay, so in my .env, that has like, you know, that has all my, it has my cloud name, it has my API key, and it has my secret. Now, if I scroll and if I look at my GitHub history, well, now this is going to be an add file on GitHub. I don't want that. I don't want to push this file up to GitHub, right? Because this is going to be a public repository. So that means anyone, including a you know, program someone wrote, could go in and like find these keys to my Cloudanary. So like I said, I'm not like, I would be most concerned about pushing this to GitHub because there's like crawlers that probably look through repos to find keys. Once again, I wouldn't be super worried about it, but you know, if this was a real app though, and you're a real company, you're going to want to keep these keys secret. You don't want that. This is essentially your password to Cloudanary. So if someone has this password, they could go in and destroy all your photos. They could go in and add a whole bunch of photos. So what I don't want to push that up to GitHub. So what I'm going to do is in my git ignore, I can tell GitHub to ignore files here. So I can say, hey, ignore the .env file. Why is that not ignoring that? Oh, wait, it is. Okay, cool. So now if I look here, my .env is not part of the changes. So it's ignoring it. It should be like giving this a little different. Maybe I'm missing an extension, but it might like should show this that this is like not really, this is ignored. It should be like grayed out a little. but I guess that's not working. But if I look at my Git history or my source control, I can see my .env file is not being tracked because I've added that to the Git ignore. But I did leave this .env example to be like, just as a reference to say like you have, you're working with different people for your group project. When they clone down, they know they're going to have to get these actual values. So with that, you could like Slack them out to your team or have like a, secure like Google Drive or something where you're storing these secrets so you can share them with your team members. Cool. And just to show you, like I do a git add dot commit dash m. Master. So I push that up to master. I have the .env example here, but I don't have the .env file on GitHub. So then someone would clone that down. They would see that, okay, I need these things to make that work. So that's something I see students forget all the time with image upload. They clone it down, their image upload's not working, well, because they don't have the actual values and they don't have that env file. Cool. So now that we have that, and I'm just going to Slack this out. This is just part of Cloudanary Set Up. This is kind of what they want. So what I'm going to do is, and I'll also Slack out where we're going to throw this. So in your config folder, we're going to come into our config folder and we're going to do a new file, and we're going to call this cloudanary.yaml. And then go ahead and paste that code inside of here. So what this is going to do behind the scenes is that's just setting up those key, like those values. So when we try to like save a photo to Cloudanary, it's going to throw in the actual cloud name, the key, and the secret. So this is where we're kind of setting up that actual usage of those variables. All right. All right, so let's do something really quick. So just to kind of test this out. So one thing we have here is we have a user. We have a logged in user. Let's just try to add a image to our user, like as an update. So remember, this is our devise user. How we create a user is we register a user. This is going to create a user to our database. But if we go look at our schema, these are kind of the things we get by default for the devise token auth. Now notice inside of here, we have this image column, which is a string. So we already have a column in here to store an image. And we want it to be a string because what we're going to store is just that URL. So let's just do, let's do a update method on our user just to go in and add a image. And we can just do this on this home page. All right. So what I'm going to do is, let's go into components. Oh, sorry, let's go into our client and then components again. I'm just going to call this like update user.js. Let's even be more specific and update user image. All right. Maybe, yeah, let's see. We can do this probably a couple different ways, but I want to look at something really quick. All right. So I'm actually going to just take what I have in my file pond demo. I'm going to just copy that and throw it inside of here. Just want to kind of give you some options or some kind of show you a couple different things. Maybe I'll kind of show you two different ways we could do this. So what I'm going to do here is on this one, if you notice on this first one we have, when I browse a photo and I open it, it's like by default, it's like trying to save this to like a database. It's like it's actually doing an API call by default. And if I look at this one, there's actually right here, this server, it's actually doing a call to /API. So maybe that's not how we want this to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this one. Let's also get rid of this max files and just say allow multiple to be false for now. So now we're going to create one that doesn't load by default or doesn't try to do an API call by default, and it only allows one. So let's just say like only one photo and don't do API call on change. Let's call this update user. All right. And what I'm going to do here, instead of using my set state function here, I'm just going to do my own like handle update function. I'm just going to write my own function so we can see what's coming in through here. And this is where I'm actually going to do eventually we'll do my Axios call. Just do X here, and then console.log X. And then I'm going to do console.log X at 0. kind of showing you some of this stuff. Okay. So back in my home.js, let's go ahead and use this. Some what was it? Update user image. That was the component. All right. So here we only have one photo. Don't do API call on change. So, and I'm going to open up my inspector. So now when I browse, I select an image. Notice how it's not doing that, like trying to upload this to a server. If I go to my console, there's my logs. Let me actually just move this, make this full screen. Move this to the bottom. So there's that first log of just what is that X? Well, it's just this thing of an array with one object, which is the image. If I grab that first thing, the file.file, here it is. This is kind of like all the file information that I'm actually going to want to send up to my to Cloudanary. Cool. So what I can do here is, well, actually, I don't want to do this. We can come in here and we can set, since this is only, well, okay, so for this handle update, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just do the set files and just set that to X. And maybe I should probably, instead of calling this X, I should call this like files. So it's a little more semantically correct. And actually, this is not going to be async, I lied. Cool. And then down here, maybe I throw in a button that then is like update. Let's actually do this. Let's throw this all in a form. Type equals submit update. Because maybe I want to add, some other inputs here. We're not going to fill this out right now, but let's say like I wanted to like also update, the email or something, or whatever the name, doesn't really matter. Something else on my user. Now this would be a reason why we maybe wouldn't want to like update right away. Browse, because there might be an image, or maybe we want them to get the, the preview before they update. So on change. let's go handle submit. Let's handle submit. Do a console.log of files times it. Okay. So I'm going to just refresh, browse, select an image, open. Go ahead and hit inspect so we can see this. Console. If I click update, where is my handle submit? Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, here's a little trick question right here. So I have my handle submit where I'm console.logging files. It's also just console.log. Handle submit clicked. Let's clear my console. I'm going to refresh. Okay, so it's just doing my like authentication stuff here. I go in, you know, select the photo. There's some more logs. I click update. Now it's doing my authentication stuff again. Why? Well, it's like it's doing that. Remember, my authentication stuff is, where is that? In the require auth, where it's like checking to see if my token's valid on like that. Why? Any ideas why that's doing that? Like why my console's getting cleared and like why it's like rechecking auth on my submit?
Do you need an E prevent default?
Yes, I do. Now, I think I know my group, well, I don't think my group has decided on the UI framework. PSA, do you know what UI library you're using?
We have not decided yet.
Yeah. I know Semantic does this for you, but I'm pretty sure things like, I don't think the other ones do. So you need to remember to do this on your forms. So I'm pretty sure Ant Design doesn't do it. I'm pretty sure React Bootstrap doesn't do it. So this can be one of those problems that like can kind of really confuse people. So remember, when we submit a form, we need to prevent this default behavior of the form, like doing a refresh. So now if I have that there, click browse, select the mountain, click update. E.prevent, did I save this? Let me refresh. It's still doing it. Select the photo, update. Why is that? Did I spell something wrong? E.prevent default. Okay. It's hitting that, right? The bugger, that's, I'm really confused. So I'm throwing in a debugger there, so it just like stops. Dude, what the heck?
So James, I did a couple things to get mine to work. One is I did on submit,
Yep.
and then I did E equals handle submit and send E equals, but I sent it as a callback function.
But this was my problem. I had this on change. This needs to be on submit. That will fix it. So if I have that, that wasn't the right callback. There we go. Handle submit clicked. There's my state files, and it's not refreshing. And just to show you, if I don't have the e.prevent default, it would have done the same. I mean, it's not going to work. So I'd hit update, it clears it, and there we go. So yeah, my issue was I had the callback, the event handler was on change for a form. I want it to be the on submit. Cool. And then I prevent default. But here I'm logging the files. And if I look at the files, update, it's right there. If I knew this was just going to be, well, actually, no, I'll leave it like this, just so it plays well with files. I could maybe have like a single file state. That be an object, or have that maybe be null by default. And then set file. I don't know, I think that's kind of overkill. So I'll just leave it how I have it. Cool. So I'm going to, I think this is a good time for a little break because I think it's going to take a second to set this up on the back end. So file pond front end setup. Push this up. So yeah, let's take a break. When we get back, we'll set up a API call to kind of handle this, do the Cloudanary, and do the Cloudanary stuff. And then we can actually send the file here. So what time is it? It is it's 10:38. Let's just come back at 10:50. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's add one more thing to this form. It looks like we do have a name and a nickname column in here, so maybe just to make this a little more clear, let's be able to like update our nickname. Set nickname. So I'm just going to create some nickname state. And do that with this form input. Here we can set nickname, target dot value. Just do a little log right here. Name. So I browse a file, open, get a file in there, click update, click console, add my file, there's my file information, there's my nickname, which is just going to be Tony. Cool. All right. So yeah, next thing we could do is just go ahead and create maybe like a controller to handle this update method and create a route for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make I'm just going to make a controller. I'll just call this Rails G controller. Do we have I'm pretty sure we have a user. So I'm going to look at the routes. Rails, go to localhost 3001 and look at the routes. So they have an auth, like when we did the auth token or the device token auth, they could created an auth controller. So that route. So what I'm going to do for these, I just want to do a users controller to maybe handle some of these custom methods that I'm doing on my user to update them. So I'm going to go, I created that. I could then go to my routes. And let's also do a resources, or let's just do a put users. Let's go take that to let's actually call this users / image demo 1, because we might do a couple different demos. So this is going to go to our users controller. Let's call this method image demo 1. So then we could go to my users controller. Find this method. Already forgot what I called it. Users image demo 1. So how do I find my user? Any ideas? And if you don't know like the code way, that's fine. Just kind of in English.
Do with like the auth user.
Yeah, so there's kind of two ways. I mean, remember my user is just in our database. So, and it has an ID. So what we sometimes would maybe do is in our URL, we could pass the ID of the user. Or like that's usually how we find something in our database is by in the URL giving us the ID. But a better way to do that, since our user, like with this, if we're updating an image on our user, I kind of be expecting that user to be logged in, right? So that's what we're going to do here, kind of like we did with the cats controller. Is we have this before action where we authenticate user. And once again, this is defined by the device token auth. And this is going to check on the back end if that token is valid. If it is successful, we'll have access to our current user. So the current user will be defined. So that's how we get our user. If it's not successful, we're going to get like I believe a 401 error. We're going to get that like unauthorized error because we're not logged in. So I'll just throw this here so we have that note as well, just to remind us. Go. So now I should be able to put, current user. Celled user. The other thing I'm going to want to grab, and we're just going to put this out, and we want to grab that file, and we want to grab in this case we want to grab like the nickname. So we have this all set up just to put it out for now. And then we set this up in our routes. So this is going to be an API/users image demo 1. So now in that right here in my handle submit and my update user image, now we can try doing that Axios call. So wait. Axios.put, that was the method we defined. It's going to be, I need to append that with API/users image demo 1. Let's definitely throw this in a try catch just so we can catch any of our errors. So since I'm using the await keyword, I need to make this function asynchronous. Async. So let's do this. Let's just, for now, let's try passing this as like file and nickname. Or I guess I need to do this file to be files at 0. And nickname has the same key value pair, so I can just do the shortcut with that one. Then in my users controller, well, these are, I'm going to comment out this for now because those are not going to be defined. Let's just put params. All right. Cool. So now we have this going. So I can go back to my React app, just refresh, browse. Clear that. I'm going to hit update. I'm getting a 404. So that either means that route's not defined or like maybe it can't find anything. So I'm going to go check my server to see if there's a better error. So uninitialized constant API users controller. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure I created a users controller. It's right here, but not quite in the right spot. So when I generated this controller, I said Rails G controller users. I needed to say Rails G controller API/users. So that puts it in my API. That puts that in my API folder, and then also namespaces it with API. So I'm just going to go ahead and take all this code, throw it in here. So that's the 404 was because it couldn't find that controller. Could also just do a Rails sweep this clean. I could delete that other one. Now I can try that again. I don't really need to refresh this because the changes I made were on the back end. So I'm just going to click update. Cool. Can go look at my params. So here's my params message. You can kind of see like this file really was not sent. So the K2 was, so I have my nickname, there's the K2, but the file that wasn't sent. When I log it in my console, it really does look like it's there. So what we need to do is with this file on our front end, it's like this weird object. It's not just like a string. It's kind of got some information attached to it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use what's called form data. And form data just gives us a way to kind of construct like a set of key value pairs with forms and their value. So with that, what I can do, and just this is going to work nice with our the file, is I'm just going to come here before this try catch. I'm just going to create this data object, and this is going to be from this form data. So new form data. So, and then I can use the append method, data.append. So this is going to be the name of the param that's going to get sent. So that I'm going to receive on the back end. So I'm just going to call this for now, just to name it poorly, just so we can see what this is doing. I'm going to call it file yo. I would normally just call this file, but I'm going to call it file yo. And then for this, so that's the name. And then the value is going to be our state, which is going to be files at 0. I want to append that one file. Command Z. Files at 0. Cool. Let's also try doing this. I can't remember if this just works on a string. So I'm going to also append a nickname and then give that the value of nickname. And then when we send this data, I'm just going to send this as, I'm going to send that form data object. All right. So changes on my front end. So I'm going to refresh, grab an image. Click update. Okay, so it looks like, let's go check my params. And see, now I have this file yo, now it's like object. So it looks like it's getting something. It's also getting the nickname. So let's go back to my users controller. Let's go ahead and log these. So notice I'm trying to put out file. The name that I called it, see how it's file yo? That's what the param is going to be named. So this is going to be params. I believe that's a string. File yo. Same thing with nickname. If I wanted to grab my nickname, that's going to be params nickname. Refresh. Actually, I didn't really need to refresh that, but whatever. You can open yo, update. Cool. So there we go. There's my file. There's the nickname. I wonder if I can just puts that out. That's going to give me better description. Let me try doing that. Nope. Okay. Just give me the object. Okay. Let's go. But that's I'm at least getting those that data. So now let's go in and try to do this actual call to Cloudanary, and I'm just going to slack this out. Okay.
Could you also slack out your update user image file, please?
Yeah. Let me slack that out. Okay. It's going back to the users controller. We're just kind of inspecting those. We're getting the data. So I'm going to do this one thing. I'm going to just get rid of all this since we kind of logged that. I'm going to first grab my file. I'm going to create a variable called file. And this is going to be params file, yo. That's how I'm going to grab that file. And then I'm going to slack out this part. Okay. So this part here is trying to save the image to Cloudanary. And then I'm also just going to do a puts. This cloud image right here. See if we can log that out. Put. All right. So let's go ahead and try this. So I have this image. I'm just going to click, since the changes were on my controller, I don't need to change anything. I can just go ahead and click update again. So I'm getting a 422 now. So let's look at that. What is that? Unprocessable entity. Okay, so it looks like I'm rendering some JSON. So here I'm doing my 422. So this looks like it didn't work. So what I could do is, so I'm not getting the best error. No content, started a put, here's my put. Let's also try doing some puts. So I'm gonna do a puts right here. Trying to save. I think this is where it's failing because I didn't see this cloud image. So let's go ahead and run this. Click update. Trying to save to Cloudanary. So it's trying to do it, but it's not working. Let's just also see if we can maybe get a little, see if we can see this error a little better. So could probably do a puts error. What does this begin rescue kind of look like? Can't remember if we've talked about this in Ruby, but what does that kind of look like? As far as like
Try catch.
Yeah, this is just a try catch, just different syntax. So try doing all of this stuff. If there's an error anywhere in this block, then rescue it. So I could hit update again. Undefined method put, okay, fine, puts. See there, now I'm logging that error. That was not the, now it's a different one. Say 500 error, because I had puts, or I had put. Click update again. Uninitialized constant. API users controller Cloudanary. Okay, so that's a pretty good error. So what it's saying is, this, like this is undefined, this Cloudanary uploader. Any ideas about what could be causing that? This one's a little bit of a, this can kind of bite you in the butt every now and then.
We have to do like a require Cloudanary, like we do with like require faker.
I don't need to do that. It's, yeah, this one's shot, like this one's more because I did this when I ran the bundle. I ran this bundle on another terminal and I still had this server running. So I was actually expecting this to be a different error, because another place where you might see this is, so it doesn't have that Cloudanary gem installed. Like I need to restart my server is what I need to do. Like requiring Cloudanary, that could be something I could try, but that definitely I need to restart my server. I was actually kind of expecting an authentication error because I also need to restart my server when I did this Cloudanary setup, when I set up like that environment key. So that would be another time I need to restart my server, which I haven't done. So I restart my server. That's kind of gonna, that should load Cloudanary. It should also load, you know, that cloudanary.yaml file. So I'm going to clear this. Let's try updating this again. I'm still getting that 422. Let's see if it's the same error. See, now it's a different error. Undefined method original file name. Okay. So let's go look at that. But that is definitely, see, now that's a different error. Now Cloudanary is defined, getting a different error. So let's go back to my users controller. All right. This now looks like, okay, so what it's saying is this original file name, that's not there. So this okay, so it looks like I am sending my data in here incorrectly, because this is how Cloudanary, when I call this upload method, it wants the file, it wants a public ID, which the file should have, when I send it from my front end, it should have this file name. Okay. So what is going on here? And I'm not even gonna, I'm just gonna say if false. Because I kind of want to do some more debugging. What is saying if false? What is this going to do? Or I could do something like this. If file and false.
Is it only going to run if there's no file?
This one is now, since I put this false here, it's just never going to run. Because
I thought it would be saying like if file evaluates to false, which would only happen if there isn't a file, then begin.
So yeah, this is, remember an if statement. So I think you're thinking of like the short circuit evaluation, right? This is just an if statement. So it's if I have a file and false. If I have an if, like this one, I'm just doing this because I don't want this if statement to run. So this is never going to run. It's kind of silly code, but it's just like so what I'm doing is I don't want to try to save this to Cloudanary because I know it's broken. What I want to do is just do some debugging here. Like you would never write this code in real code because this would now be what's considered dead code. Because it's never going to hit this because I have I mean, it's the same thing as saying like if false. That's like, why would you ever have that? Does that make sense? If I have an if statement where I'm hard coding false, like this is always going to be false. So this code is never going to run. If I do something like this, if I have some Boolean and then I have an and statement and false, that's always going to evaluate to false. It's just the way, I don't know. I just don't want this to run because what I want to do, or what my issue is I know I need to like somehow send this original file name. So if I go back to my front end and I browse, select an image, click open. Does it not? File name. Did that just get, did it switch to name? All right, let's do this. I feel like this is puts file name. I still feel like this, though, it's the way it's getting sent. Because when I just log file, this kind of has like a weird syntax. So puts file. Oh, sorry, puts. I might need to debug this for a second. All right. So I'm just gonna click update. I'm getting a 500 error. What's my 500 error? Undefined local variable method. Where is that puts file? Might have been that semicolon. Okay, it was. Yeah, the file name, like it's not getting that object. Okay, so I think this is maybe from the front end. Let me try doing something here. This form data dot append. I'm not going to append this nickname. I wonder if that's screwing it up. It shouldn't be. Okay. Open. What is that? Oh. I think what, okay, yeah, it's file.file. Okay, I need to, sorry, I forgot to grab the file off of that. That's what I'm doing wrong. Okay. So when I want to grab that first file object, but then I want to grab the file key off of that. So let's try doing that. And I'm going to go back to appending this nickname. So I need the dot file here because when I log it on the handle update, I believe it's there. Let's try that. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to refresh. Select, grab that, open, give it a nickname, K2, update, getting a 500 error. Undefined method. Oh, okay, cool. That's a little better. I'm going to, okay. There, now we're getting it, sweet. Okay, so there's our original file name. There we go. There it is. So I just got rid of that puts file name because now I have the file. Just update it again. There's no error. Cool. File, there it is. Action dispatcher, HTTP upload file. I can also look at my parameters. There's my file, yo. But notice how inside of here, it's got like the original file name, content type, headers, the file name. There we go. So that's the stuff I need to send to Cloudanary. So now I can get rid of this. Now I can try actually sending it to Cloudanary. Let's go ahead and update. Sweet. Trying to save to Cloudanary cloud image. So there's my other puts, that cloud image. So then I put it out. Now when I get that cloud image back, I have something like the asset ID. I have a public ID. I have this secure URL in this. This is just the cloud image is just a hash. But I do have this secure URL. If I copy that secure URL and I paste it in my browser, there it is. There's my image. So that was successfully saved to Cloudanary. And then, yeah, I got back this yo worked file cloud image. But I don't want to do this right here. Well, I mean, this is kind of where it's it kind of really depends on your use case, like what you want to do, because that's just saving it to Cloudanary. So what I'm going to do now is I can, try to save user. So I can do something like this, user.image, and I'm going to take this, it equals. So when I get back this cloud image, that has that secure URL. That's the link to to the image. I could also, if I was doing other stuff, I could do my user.nickname equals params nickname. I could do something like this, if user.save actually, let's do this. I want to not do this here. just do this right here. After that, after we tried to save our image. So if we save here, we can render JSON. And that's instead of using user, let's use, because we don't have that user, we're going to use, sorry, we're going to use current user. Render JSON current user. All right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead to our update user image. Let's just do a console. Let's see if we're actually getting back that response. Cool. Console.log response. So let's go ahead here. I'm going to refresh. Let's go ahead and do Mount Olympus. Go ahead and click update. Getting a 500 error. Let's go look at our 500 error. Undefined method user. Am I still, oh, right here, sorry, current user.save. Go ahead and clear that. But that still should have saved that image to Cloudanary. Could probably go look at my Cloudanary account and find that picture. Because that should have ran that line of code, that should have saved. But then when I tried to save that user, then that was an error because that wasn't defined. Let's go ahead and update that again. Okay, so here's my response that I'm sending back. I'm sending back my data, which is going to be my updated user. So now my user has the nickname Mo, and then it has that image. It should be that Mount Olympus. So if I click that URL, there it is. So if I had to refresh this whole page, my home page, you know, it has that URL of Mount Olympus. So now in like my home page, you know, I could do this. Grab an image tag. Image. I always forget if it's image or I think it's IMG. And then the source. This would be my auth.image. It's hard coded width and a height on here. You could also, grab their nickname. Dot nickname. Yeah, if I come in here, select an image, browse that one, open, change their nickname to changed. Click update. Well, we don't have it set up to like automatically change that, but if I hit refresh, my nickname's been changed and my user image has been changed. Just maybe a little gotcha here is, let's say they go, like the user goes in, just with the way I have this particularly set up, I go in and I don't upload a photo and I change just my nickname. I click update and then I hit refresh. Well, my nickname's not changed. I'm going to hit inspect. Let's do that one more time. New name. Now I'm getting this error, cannot read properties of undefined reading file. So if I look at my server, probably getting an error somewhere inside of here. Was that on my front end? Oh, that's in my front end. So I might want to handle both on the front end. I probably would want like a check here. Like make sure I have this. Also on my front end, yeah, it's saying like cannot read properties of undefined reading file. It's kind of a bad error because it's not telling me where it's getting it from, but it's assume it's like right here. If files at 0 and files at 0 dot file. I might need to do some checking to see that I have that. I shouldn't log those either. So let's see if that fixes it. So you might run into issues, and this is just like I said, kind of specific to your UI. Like you maybe want someone to be able to change their name without updating a photo. You just might run into some issues. So now I'm getting a 500 error. Undefined method for nil class, that's line 31. Oh, I should more do it like this. Why am I doing this like cloud image and cloud image secure URL? Kind of like I did right here, file 0 and file 0.file. You kind of see what the point of that is. What I'm doing here is because right here I'm getting an error, undefined method, square brackets for nil class. So, and that was happening right here at line 31 before I had that. So cloud image was nil. So if I tried to, like in Ruby, do nil and then do curly brackets and then, whatever inside of here, that's going to be an error because I can only do curly brackets on like an array or a hash. I can't do that on nil, so that's going to be an error. So what I can do, because I'm not sure if cloud image is defined, because if I don't have a file, it's not going to be defined. So what I can do is I can do an and statement. So I'm going to say, hey, do I have the cloud image defined? Like if this is nil, remember this if statement, it's going to see nil and whatever. This is kind of what I was doing up here. Similar, like false. Like I could do this beforehand. If I did false and it's going to check to see, well, it's not even going to check to see if I have a file because it's going to see this is false. False and anything is always going to be false. Like if I say I'm 1,000 years old and anything else after that, it's a false statement, right? Because I'm not 1,000 years old. Doesn't matter if the next thing I say is true. So a computer language will stop right here. It's smart enough to be like, oh, this first thing is false. I don't need to evaluate any further. So we can do this. We can do cloud image and check that. If I did this the other way, this would not work because if cloud image is undefined, it's going to cause the error. Like, but this way I can kind of, this is just like a little trick to check to see that cloud image is actually defined because I'm expecting that to be a hash. So if it is a hash, that's going to be a truthy value. Then go check to see if I have the secure URL attribute in there. I mean, I could say like dot class. I could, if I wanted to get more specific, hey, is this class, is it equal to a hash? Well, if it's equal to a hash, then I can try doing that. All right, so let's do that. Let's browse, select the file. Or actually, we're not selecting the file. We're just doing new name. Photo. I'm going to clear my console, click update. So now I'm getting back my res.data. It's updated the nickname. So if I hit refresh, my new nickname's there, but my photo hasn't been changed. So here's a pretty functional demo of with some error handling, so I can come in here. I can add a photo. This can also be part of a form where I could add other things to that form. I could click update. It's also built in, so like if they don't give me a photo, I don't have to update it. That photo, it still works. But hopefully this kind of shows the 2 steps. So as far as our backend is concerned, so we want to have this 1 step of saving to Cloudanary. And then we're going to use this object we get back from Cloudanary to store that URL to our database. All right, so let me push this up to GitHub. Any questions on this? So when we get back, let's do another example where we get maybe this one working, where you can select an image and then it automatically saves that to the database. So you can kind of have those 2 different examples, like one, an image upload that's like associated with the form, and another image that's just kind of goes up and automatically saves to the database.
What is on the update user image, you said let data equal new form data under the handle submit. Is the form data function like something that already exists somewhere in the world that we're using?
Yeah, so when I was like typing that out, it's this is defined by JavaScript. So like I said, this provides a way to construct a set of key value pairs representing form fields and their values. So I can create this form data. So I'm doing 2 things in this example. I'm appending this file yo key, and I'm setting that equal to the actual, like this file 0.file. That's like the image itself. Now this file 0.file, if we were to log that, let's just log that right here. Console.log. So this is what I'm actually, eventually going to set this files yo to. So let's just look at that. So when I come in here and select that. Isn't that my on change? Do I not? Oh, I don't use this anymore. Oh, on update files, handle update. Why is that not? Oh, did I wait? What? Browse. Why is that callback not getting in? Why is that not calling this callback? It's because I'm doing my handle submit. Let's just do it right here. I'm a little confused why that's not logging, that change event's not logging it. Let's do it on our submit though, because I just kind of want to show you what this looks like. Okay, because so this is the oh, it's on update. Okay, it is doing it when I need to just call the submit. Okay, so there's my here. So here's my file. So this itself has like, you know, it has all of this information on it. So using the form data, that's just an easy way I can like kind of attach all that data to this one key. So when and notice how I'm appending the file yo, that's what I'm calling it. And I'm also appending the nickname, which the value is going to be the nickname from my form. So when I send that to my controller, that's how I can get all of that data. So I'm just saying file equals params. There's that file yo from the form data. And now my file variable has things like this original file name, and it has like the file, which is actually kind of like this hash looking thing. I wonder if we can see it. Where are my params? I can see it in here anywhere. Yeah, like it's got this action dispatch, you know, this upload file, the original file name, content type, headers. So there's a lot of stuff being sent with that. I also should have in the parameters somewhere the nickname. So that's what's going on there. Cool. I'm gonna get rid of all these logs, getting messy. All right. Cool. Any other questions? And this whole like file 0.file, this is kind of why I'm doing this. This is more like a file pond thing. If you're using a different like library, that might look a little different on how to actually grab that data. This is just how file pond does it. Cool. Any other questions? If not, we can come back. Let's just call it 12. Let's do 12:10, give you a little longer. And yeah, when we come back, we'll set up one that automatically does it when we submit. So you have those two examples. did I say 12:10 or 12:15? I guess it's 12:15, but cool. So yeah, let's do a little example with kind of that automatic upload. I think it, like I said, really depends on your use case. I think where this might work well is if you have a model that has like many images or has many like, you know, Cloudanary types. So let's just do a little demo with that. So what I'm going to do is, I think I just want to come in here and create a new model. So I'm just going to create a model. I'm just going to call this model images. And this is going to belong to a user. So user belongs to, so it's going to have that. And then it's just going to have a URL. It's going to be string. No image. I think it, so I called it Rails G model images. I used a plural. So I think Rails was nice enough to switch that to image for me. Okay, so now I have this image model. Let's go ahead and do a db migrate. To create that, let's go look at my schema. So there's my user foreign key, and then it has a URL. So I could maybe create like an image controller, but I'm just going to do this in my users. So I'm going to do so this is going to be a create, because I'm creating an image. So I'm going to do a post to users, and I'm just going to call this method image demo 2. All right, so now we have an image demo 2. So def image demo 2, and so once again, I'm going to grab my current user. So we're doing our before action, authenticate user. Let's also grab the file. I'm not going to call this params file on this one. I'm just going to call it file when I send it. So, and I can kind of just copy a lot of this, can maybe even throw this into a method at some point, but we're going to kind of do a similar, like pretty much the exact same thing. I don't need those errors anymore. So I'm going to grab my file from params. I'm going to, you know, save to Cloudanary as the first step. And then my second step, you know, save to database. Current. Now this one, our last one was a put method because we're updating something, updating a user. This one's going to be a create. So I'm going to do a current user dot create, or sorry, current user dot images dot create the URL, and that's going to be my cloud image secure URL. Now I don't need the user ID. I mean, I do need the user ID, but since I'm using the current user, and because I could also do it like this, just to kind of give you another way. So I could create it with the image class. image.create. This one I would need to pass the current user.id. That's another way I could do that. If I wanted to do some validation, I could do something like this, image equals and do the new method. And then try to save the image, if image.save. So if we successfully save, let's render back JSON image. If not, we could just render back the errors, which would be image dot errors. All right. So that is the back end. So we have a route for that. So users image demo 2. If I do a post request to that, that should take me to that method. Should try to upload it to Cloudanary. If it's successful, then we'll save the image. Let me ask you this question. If we fail in this Cloudanary right here, let's say this line fails, will we hit this line of code? Someone's shaking their head. Yeah, the answer is no. Because if this fails, we're going to hit the rescue. And inside of our rescue is a return. So we render JSON and then we return from this function. So remember, the return would stop this function. That's why this return is right here. If I don't have this return right here, I'm not sure. I'm actually that. What would happen? We might try to send back both of these renders. We definitely want to.
Wouldn't it render without that return? Wouldn't it render whatever you had in the rescue and then continue on?
Yeah, it would render that. It would render that. Then it would get here. I guess this would then fail. We would get a 500 error right here because cloud image wouldn't be defined. So, yeah. But I kind of don't even want to like avoid, like kind of think about how to handle that. But so definitely if this fails, I don't want to do anymore. So I want to return. And then that way, once I get here, like I know that's, since I have this return here, I know if I get to this line of code, like it was successful. Cool. So that's just that on the front end. I mean, sorry, at the back end. So now let's go to our front end. Let's maybe do this on the, like we created this file pond demo. And to be honest, I'm actually, let's just try doing this. I'm actually not quite sure off the top of my head how FilePond does this with multiple files, but let's just see if this works. Hopefully it just magically works, which it might. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch this server URL to that API call that I just created. I can't remember routes. It's users images 2. All right, so users FilePond demo. Okay. So yeah, and we'll see if that's doing a post request by default, because I'm not giving it a type. So hopefully that's doing a post request. This might be something we would maybe have to go and investigate a little further, but let's just see if this works. So I'm doing max files 3. So it looks like I can only upload 3 files at a time. I'm allowing multiple. It's just, yeah, let's give this a go. See if it works. It's always the fun part about working with third-party libraries. There's be some kind of just experimentation. Oh yeah, here's my FilePond. Like when I'm logged into FilePond, it's actually showing these 2 pictures that I just uploaded. So they're like, this is my account. So there they are. I know they're up there. Oh yeah, here's a picture. This is when the windstorm knocked out my power. Here's my power line. Anyway, so yeah, let's go to localhost 3000. Added a couple more photos in this image album, so let's go open that one. Okay, that did not work. Cool, but that actually hit my, I can see it started a post request, so that's good. Started a post request to that URL, and it looks like I just have a syntax error. And because it looks like I'm forgetting a comma. So let's go to my users controller. Oh yeah, I don't need that user ID right there. Since I'm using my current user, I just can do the URL. So did that successfully save to Cloudanary? It did probably, because it's right here. Like my code failed right here. So to get here, that line had to work. Like, because there was no, it didn't catch that error. So I'd imagine if I went back to Cloudanary and hit refresh, that picture should be there. But it's not. Maybe it takes a second. I really think that should have been there. Where is it? Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Since it's a syntax error, this probably didn't even run, because if you have a syntax in here, it's not going to like, when it builds this, it's once it like hits this method, it'll see, oh, there's a syntax error. So that did not actually fail there. That actually failed when this compiled. Okay. But let's try that again. I'm gonna refresh. Browse. Select the photo. Oh, that's the wrong one. I want to do it here. It's uploading. Okay, got another error. Oh, damn. All right, this one's a little more tricky. So it looks like it's not able to authenticate user on this one, which makes sense. Because with my API calls, remember when we did authentication, if I look at like my like index.js, we have this init middleware, which is keeping track of like all of this token stuff for our authentication. But this is just with Axios. It's doing this with our Axios calls. So when I get back a response from Axios, it's giving me back that new token. When I do an Axios call, it's keeping track of the token. So when I go to my users controller and I try to authenticate my user, I'm not actually getting the token there. So let's do this. Let's do this only on image demo 1. Cool. So now since I'm only doing this on image demo 1, I'm not going to have current user because I'm not validating the token. So it's not going to know that user's logged in. So this one, let's just do a user equal user.find params ID. So for this one, now I do need to send the ID of the user. And so then here, when I do this, I need to send the ID of the user here. I'm just going to probably get this from props. Okay. So in this file pond demo, it's going to get an ID, which then I can use in this URL. So when I use this file pond demo, now it's kind of expecting that ID. So I can send that here, ID equals auth.id. Because here I could have done this. I could have grabbed my use context, grabbed the ID inside of here, or I could pass it down as a prop. So now I'm giving it this ID, the auth.id file pond demo. So then we can take that ID, append that to our URL. Then in our routes, now we have that params ID. So my users controller in this method, I can then find the user. All right, let's go ahead and refresh that. So let's browse M4. Another error. Undefined method images. Okay. Why am I getting this error? Undefined method images. what did I forget to do? It's in my user model. I have that association, right? A user has many images. When I created that image model, I said Rails G model image belongs to user. That does it on the database level. But if I want to do something like this, where I say user.images.new, to make that method images there, I need to say a user has many images in my model. Let's look at this one. So that, now I would expect that one to have saved to Cloudanary. How is that not saving? It's a little worrisome. Let's not be running this. Okay. Well, we fixed that. So now our user has many images. I hope this works. We just keep on running to a whole bunch of errors. Browse. Open. It's uploading. Undefined method blank for nil class. Yeah, that's not good. Is that line 58? Yes. So what it's saying is cloud image is not defined. How are we getting there without that failing? Let's put in some logs here. I think I know what's happening. I don't see this trying to save to Cloudanary. Files, damn it. Okay, so my parameters is coming back as files. And I'm saying right here, file equals params file. Okay, so when I copy and pasted this, so the way we're sending this, okay, this makes a lot of sense because I was like wondering why this stuff wasn't getting saved to the database. That last call, I was like, that should have got saved to the database because it should have done it and then it should have failed right there. So what I'm actually doing wrong here is I look at my parameters. I have this files parameter, which looks like the file. So I think I just need to name that params files. Before that, I don't think it was logging, or we didn't have the file because there wasn't params file. So if file, well, that was false. So we skipped this whole, skip that whole thing. Because I know, even though I added these two lines in here, I never saw this trying to save to Cloudanary in here. So it does the call, but I don't see that put message. For this method, actually what I should do, I could almost throw this code inside of my if statement. I think I might, but let's just get this working. Okay, so now I just want to see, relogging this, trying to save the Cloudanary. So I can just go ahead. Let's try picking another photo, open. There we go. So there we go, trying to save the Cloudanary. There's the first one before, there's the second one after. There we go, we got our, and then we're getting back that image with the URL. Sweet, there it is. Cool, so it looks like this one I could come in, I could select, a couple different images. Let's just do one, let's do one more. Let's, just gonna refresh. Just to check I'm just gonna check this in my console. So I'm gonna do user, well, let's do this. Let's do images.all, image.all. There's those two images that my user ID 2 has. So those are those saved to the database. So I could do user dot find 2 dot images. There we go. So I could create an Axios call, to grab all the users 2 images. Let's see if this works if I do multiple. So that we just did one at a time. Let's try doing like a couple. See if that screws it up. Sweet. So I did 3 more, so now I should be able to, I need to reconnect. User.find 2 images. And now there's 5 images on that user. I think maybe Cloudanary, if I refresh. I think Cloudanary itself was like, because I had tried to upload some duplicates to Cloudanary. Like Cloudanary was smart enough. Like I think it realized, hey, I was trying to upload images that were already there. So I don't have duplicates. Because I know I've uploaded this Mount Olympus one 2 times. But it's only in my Cloudanary once. So there's that demo. So what time is it? 11:45. This whole way of getting this to work with this image demo 2 was a little bit of a hack, to do this ID. Maybe I do want to authenticate my user for this. And maybe also I want to have this UI. I do not know how to do that off of the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a way to, send headers or I could just go, let's try going to like the React file pond. Like this one, if I wanted to do something like that, where I want to send specific data, I can, there might be a way, I'm sure there's probably a way to do it, but that might take like an hour to figure out. Because what I'd want to do is, so let's go to like update user image, or what was it, file pond demo. Like, you know, maybe somehow send headers, like I need to somehow send that like it's in local storage. I mean, this is not the code, but what I'm kind of trying to show you is if we go to our localhost 3000, inspect, like I want to send, so in local storage, I have this access token. Like that's something I'd want to send somehow. I'm not sure how I would do it with this specific way. I'm sure there's a way to do it. You know, I would go in to local storage because I do have that access token. I would send that. But something I'd also need to do, just a little note with device token auth, is when I do an API call and I do that require, like before action require auth, it's going to also create a new access token. So I'd have to like send, once this is successful, I would need to send, like somehow get back that new access token. So to actually do this with the access token, I would think we could do it. I don't know, I'm not going to say that 100%. I think we could do it, but I think it would be a pain. And I'm not so, I could also say like, I'm not maybe so concerned about like the security of this, because one thing I could do is I could make this protected on the front end, so you could only see this page if you're logged in. But technically, if someone knew, like was using your website and they knew this URL endpoint, they could send an image to it without it being authenticated for a user. But are you gonna, I don't know, I wouldn't be worried about that for most apps. Especially for like a lot of like your hackathon stuff and like your portfolio project, it's you just want to get it like the features done. I would say adding authentication to this would be like a nice to have. The other way you could kind of fix that is with this demo, where we do it in a form and we don't automatically submit it. This one does use authentication. So you could kind of do a trade-off where, well, I'll just put it in a form and have them submit. And what you're going to lose with that is you're going to lose this UI, this uploading UI. But that's not a huge deal, right? You could do a spinner, something else. So I don't know, do those two examples, and like I said, we're getting into the area where it's like, it's going to be a little harder for you. Like you might not just be able to copy and paste this like you did for homework and use this in your project, because you're going to have a specific use case for how to upload images. But hopefully this kind of showing you it in these two ways, one in a form and one just kind of automatically uploading, that kind of shows you how to do it on the front end. You might even want to change, you might not even want to use file pond. You might use a different UI library. Like there's, I believe there's like drop zone. Here's another one that kind of does a similar thing. But yeah, this is going to work differently than file pond. But it kind of, let's see if we can see an example. It essentially gives you a similar thing where it gives you this thing in your UI where you can, how come there's not like a demo? Where you can like select an image. As far as the back end, let's go just to our users controller. With my group, I'm kind of hoping this resource type auto is going to magically make this work with MP3s. That might not. You might
I
have to,
looked that up. You have to use video, and then Cloudinary knows how to do it with video.
okay. So yeah, that you might need to do video. I think there's another one that's like raw that might work. So I haven't looked at that, but yeah. So that does, auto is not gonna magically make that work for an MP3. Yeah. So
Yeah, you have to do video or raw. It said.
okay. So that is the upload, like the upload method might not be the same. Is it the same upload method? Or is it like, okay, cool. So hopefully it's like not that much different. But yeah, as far as the back end, it's kind of the, like whether it's an MP3, image, video, it's kind of the same idea. We're going to save this to Cloudinary. So it's storing all that data in Cloudinary, and then we're going to get back that URL. And then we're going to save that URL to our database. And yeah, with this, we saw an example where we did an update on our user model. And then we also saw one where we did a create method to not our user, but to an images model where a user has many images. So hopefully there's like enough variation inside of here that can get you a lot of the way there. Cool. So let me do this. Let me do a get add and commit. But are there any questions? Yeah, if anyone wants to figure out how to do the token stuff, let me know. But yeah, I would say for your project, try avoid doing stuff like that, because that stuff can take like days. You can really get stuck on those things. If you can find a quicker way that, you know, maybe it's not as secure, but it works, I think that's fine. You know, it's part of the MVP. And then you can always leave, you know, like a to-do. No, use auth. And if you have time, then you can go back and do that. Put that as a ticket in your backlog. Cool. Yeah, I think that is it for me. So if there's no questions, we can hop off and take lunch. Let's just come back at, let's call it 2 o'clock.
Don't we need to come back at 1:30 for Will to do his presentation thing? Isn't that what he said?
I doubt I don't think he's gonna be here at 1:30. Did he say 1:30 yesterday?
Yes.
No, I would say still come back at 2 because I'll tell him we got done later. So you can still have your hour lunch. And then he'll just come at 2. Sound good?
Sweet.
Right. See you back at 2.